Coming live from Barrington Hills, Illinois, USA is our guest tonight. Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Nick Espinosa, Chief Security Fanatic at Security Fanatics, a cyber warfare outfit dedicated to designing custom cyber defense strategies for companies. Welcome to the show, Nick.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Same here. It's nice to have you, Nick, and especially as we move into 2023, and in a few days, the big concern is that a lot of people are worried about not just about their data security, but a lot of privacy issues are there, and companies are worried about how this world will unfold as they move forward towards the new year. And during this time, you wrote recently an article on Forbes about how the state of the cybersecurity workforce itself is, and if they are not in a great and fit and fine position, how can we expect them to be actually taking care of the task that they have been entrusted with at several companies across the globe. So we'll be talking about that particular stuff, state of cybersecurity workforce. And you are the expert. We have written the article, and not only just we'll talk about other things, about the trends and predictions for the next year. So you say, Nick, is that, there is a problem with the state of cybersecurity workforce. I will not put anything from my side. I would like to hear exactly what are you trying to say about our cybersecurity workforce.
Yeah. So, and one, thank you for having me on your show. I really appreciate it. And hello all to the audience. Secondly, yeah, we have a huge problem in cybersecurity right now, and it is a two-pronged issue as I see it. First things first, we do not have globally, whether it's in India or here in the United States, enough people that are working on training, all of that. According to the latest ISC2 report, we're down over 3 million open positions right now in cybersecurity, meaning as cybersecurity, we have a hiring problem, we've got issues staffing, but cyber attacks continue to grow. And so that is a huge problem that we've got. And obviously, people that are just coming out of training have no experience. They are not veterans, if you will, in cybersecurity. They're still learning, even though they're learning on the job when they get the job. The other problem that we have is the veterans here as well, meaning those that have been in cybersecurity 5 or 10 or more years are starting to burn out. And surveys, as I mentioned in my article, surveys are showing that there are many cybersecurity professionals, over somewhere between a third into a half or so, are saying in the next couple of years, they just want to quit. They cannot keep up with the data breaches. There are constant attacks. If you look at it, most enterprise organizations on average see over 10,000 cyber alerts every single day against their infrastructure. These are the large corporations of the world. In fact, one of the largest companies in the world sees over 250 million threats against their infrastructure every single quarter, which is 1 billion threats a year. And so it's very hard right now for cyber teams to keep up because we're understaffed. And as much as we use things like AI and automation, we're just not keeping up with it, and we can't hire. So it's been a real big issue that we've got right now.
So what does it mean for us, for corporations, for companies, as well as individuals, common man like me? What does it mean that we'll be, as we move into the new year, we will be very much insecure?
Yeah, well, it means a couple of different things. One, that you may not be as secure as you think you are because you don't have, quite frankly, enough humans that are actually working on cybersecurity for you, whether they're looking for threat, watching for threat, all of that. This also means that your costs are going to go up. Right now, we have a rather large increase in salaries in cybersecurity because the demand for qualified professionals is so high. Like I personally, I own my own company, and I also every single week I'm contacted by recruiters saying, "Hey, we'll pay you a lot of money if you'll go work for X company." I mean, it's very hard out there right now, but it also means that we're going to be spending more on the artificial intelligence and AI automation to try and basically fill that gap. But at the end of the day, it is a very tough predicament. And it's not just for corporations, it's for governments as well. The United Nations did a survey a couple of years ago that said, well, 100% of all governments around the globe understand that they are under threat. Basically, less than 50% actually have a plan, let alone an implementation of cybersecurity. For that, it's a big problem that we've got right now, just everywhere, India included.
Okay. So now let's talk about the problem. You talk about cybersecurity personnel, burning out. That's the thing, and you quoted the Mimecast study,
Yes.
wherein it says that in the next 2 years, around one third of experienced cybersecurity professionals are seriously considering quitting in the next 2 years. That's huge. Means that leaves us unprotected, and what are the companies doing about it? As you said, that lot of people are trying to connect with you, trying to hire you for their work, but is that enough? Is it a thing that has just come up, or was it there in the making even before COVID? What is
Well,
your assessment?
I mean, so COVID really focused a lens on cyber attack. I also happen to be the chief spokesperson for the COVID-19 Cyber Threat Coalition, which was over 4,000 cybersecurity volunteers in 24 time zones across the world. There are 26 time zones in the world. We had volunteers in 24 time zones looking at indicators of compromise, or IOCs, every single day. And it was absolutely crazy at the beginning of the pandemic because every cyber criminal on the planet, I don't care where they were from, were basically using COVID-19 as the lure, as the lens. It was the only thing we saw was, so here in the United States, when we started going through lockdowns at the beginning of the pandemic, there were runs to the local stores on things like toilet paper, right? Because people were panicking. They didn't know what to do. And so we started seeing websites pop up that say, oh, can't find toilet paper? Click here. And so we were scrambling left and right to try to sift through this information to help protect hospitals and infrastructure. And so it's been going on since before then, in the sense that we have seen year over year an increase in data breaches, an increase in ransomware. This is if we're looking at the money and the wealth that has been extracted from the globe, everybody on the planet, you in India, me here in the United States, we have collectively, our governments, our businesses have spent $1 trillion from 2017 to 2021. And the hackers, the criminals, have taken over $6 trillion from us. It's the single largest wealth transfer in history, and it's not going away. It continues to get worse. And with the advent of things like cryptocurrency and the obfuscation of funds, so it's very hard to track where the money is going, or it's getting easier now, but it's been hard to track where the money is going. We just saw an explosion in this. And so you've got a lot of people that are essentially overworked. Our number one call here, for example, is, oh my God, help, I've never worked with you, but the world is burning down. What do we do? And that is something that takes a lot out of the entire team, right? Because now we have to stop everything. We've got to focus on this breach. We've got to contain it. And then, you never know, in 20 minutes, we might get the exact same call from somewhere else. And that has happened. And so if you think about it this way, you've got, instead of working a normal 8-hour shift as a cybersecurity engineer, you're starting to work 12 hours, 20 hours right through a data breach, because that's what it requires. In your company, basically the gears of the economy stop for the company when you have a cyber attack, which means the professionals can't stop until the company's back up and running. And so this is a huge problem that we have. And also in that survey, I think, as I mentioned as well, is, a lot of CISOs or CISOs, Chief Information Security Officers, are feeling less and less, responsible for these data breaches. And they're not taking it personally because there's so many, they can't keep up. And so they just throw their hands up and say, what are we going to do? And so if we start losing those veterans, if we start losing our core professionals, that's a huge problem. I've been in this field for 20 years, and I have to say, I have never been this busy in my entire life. The last few years have just been absolutely insane with cyber attacks and data breaches, and it's been unbelievable. This is seriously 20 plus years, and this is the craziest it's ever been.
Right, Nick. Now, what is the main reason that we have come to this point? Because you see, corporations, companies who are spending so much of money, they have got data of millions of people. They have been entrusted with with the lives of those people. They have not taken care of this particular stuff, so that it has come to this level, because everybody plans for this sort of a stuff, that people can leave, people will come, people will go, but the one thing that cannot go off your head is the data security, the privacy, and the data of the people who have entrusted their whole life data is with you in one form or the other. I, as an individual, can make a mistake, but can companies who have got the wherewithal, they have got the finances, they have missed out on this particular thing? Maybe not deliberately, but there has been some sort of oversight from companies, that we have come to this situation when we will feel less secure as we move into the new year.
Yeah, well, and to that point, I think there's a couple of different responses to that, why companies are getting breached so quickly. And I can look back in my 20-year career, 20 plus years in this. Most people at the beginning of my career did not want to talk about all of the extra things they needed to do for cybersecurity. Our current existing defensive posture, it's not broken and nobody's hacking us. I'm not worried about it. And so there has been a level of complacency in technology that we have seen year after year, and even during the modern era. You would read in the news, oh, big company A or big company B just got hit, and you're thinking, well, I'm just a small shop, wherever you are in the world, and it's not going to happen to me. But they're the ones that are oftentimes targeted the most, because they're easier to break into. And so what usually happens in situations like this is better defensive postures for a lot of organizations out there, including governments, I have to say, including the U.S. government, which is not doing so good in cybersecurity either in some aspects, is basically have a reactive stance to that, meaning, oh, now I'm breached, now I'll spend the money. So what we've started to see, in the last couple of years is more organizations becoming proactive for that. So our number one call is, help, we're breached, I've never worked with you. Our number two call is, I don't want to be that company. So what do I have to do to not be that company? And those calls are coming as well. And that's really good sign, but it's coming at a point where, again, we have problems staffing. We have a very, very serious issue staffing. And I don't care where you are in the world in cybersecurity, you are needed. And so I think that's the other side of this as well, is that what we have then are outfits that, let's say, do standard technology, like IT firms that, will build the servers for you, keep your printers running, all of that, now selling cybersecurity. But unfortunately, oftentimes it's low to mid-range cybersecurity, and oftentimes it's not holistic. It's more data security, meaning it's the products, not the approach to risk management, which is one of the foundations of what cybersecurity is. And I think that's another issue that we have as well. And so if there are any business owners, watching or listening to this right now, I would really take a good hard look at the products that your IT company is selling you, because odds are they're not on par with the products that cybersecurity outfits sell, even though they're trying to compete with us. And that's another issue that we've seen out there, to the point where I actually have IT companies as clients that are learning and training on better products that they are then pushing to their clients for better defensive postures. So we're all trying to help each other out here. I'm not knocking IT companies. I think IT companies are beyond needed. I'm married to IT companies. They're great. It's just a different discipline, in the same way that I do not go to my foot doctor for brain surgery and I don't go to my brain surgeon for footwork, right? We specialize, and that's the name of the game. That's what it is.
Right. If the problem is so deep and so immediate, then what is the way to fix it, Nick? How soon can we fix it? How do we fix it? Is the say firing and all these companies that have recently happened, is that an opportunity for companies to hire the right talent from that lot?
Right. Well, so companies have the opportunity to hire the right talent. The problem right now is that it's very hard to find the right talent. And so, the way we are basically filling this gap right now, as we are spinning up education, and universities across the world right now are spinning up cybersecurity courses and degrees in a way that we just haven't seen before. When I was coming up, there really was no cybersecurity course, that you could take. Maybe one university had one, and so now we're seeing that response. But what that does is get more people into the cybersecurity workforce. They just have no experience. And so the way we've been stopping the gap is essentially with our technology. We have been leveraging artificial intelligence. We have been leveraging it to look at behavior for threat detection, which is beyond important. We've been leveraging it to look through all of the massive amount of logging and output that infrastructure gives. Every time you log in, a record is written. We now have artificial intelligence to look at that. So if I'm sitting here, in Barrington Hills, just outside of Chicago, and suddenly I'm logging in at 3 a.m. in Moscow, Russia, the AI says, well, wait a second, Nick is not in Chicago, Nick is in Moscow. Nick shouldn't be in Moscow, and then it'll cut me off. So we are leveraging these things, but there's only so much that the artificial intelligence can do. And the proof of that is Facebook. If you look at Facebook, Facebook has a lot of problems with security, but they also have a lot of problems with disinformation worldwide. I don't care what country you're in. You could be under the Biden government or the Modi government, and there's disinformation that gets into Facebook that we all see, and their artificial intelligence cannot keep up. And so if we are looking holistically around the globe, the artificial intelligence that is helping cybersecurity, I think at the end of the day, is naturally going to miss things because we're the ones that have to innovate the cybersecurity. And if we don't have enough experienced veterans to do that, that's the problem that we've got right now.
Right. So is there a window when we will be majorly insecure or not secured by from the cyber attacks if it happens? Is there a time frame that you see when we should be more conscious about our cyber defenses?
Well, we should already be conscious now, in the sense that time is already here. Meaning, I can look at 10 different companies, and 2 of them I could probably teach a elementary school how to break into. I could teach children how to break into them, and there will be companies that are very heavily defended because they've really been working on it over the years, and everybody else is going to be in between. And so that's happening right now, and it really, the impetus is on the organization or the corporation. First things first is to understand the risk to the company, meaning how many computers can be off for how long until it's so financially unviable for the company that you could go out of business, right? Or what happens if your very sensitive data is stolen? What happens if you're designing weapons for the military and those weapons designs are stolen by a foreign government? What happens to you as an organization? If you can quantify those things, then you start to put essentially an understanding of how much money you should be spending on your defensive strategy. You might be needing to spend, $1 million US. Maybe it's $20 million US. Maybe it's 20,000 US. And I don't know the conversion rate to rupees. I apologize, but you know what I'm talking about, right? As long as you can quantify that risk and understand exactly what you have to lose as a company, as an individual, whatever it is, then you act accordingly to defend that. Meaning now the budget is justified, the finances is justified to hire, and maybe you have to pay more, maybe you buy more automation, whatever that is. But that time is now. There's no in the future. And as I'm looking at the future, I do think it's going to get worse out there. It really is, because we've seen year over year, more and more organizations are getting hacked. More and more companies are showing up on leak sites, and people are paying, because they have to get their data back. So it's a huge problem.
Right. So let's talk about trends in cyber attack. Is there a particular trend that you see, types of cyber attacks that can potentially happen? What are the things that big corporations, they still have some sort of manpower, but what about the smaller companies who have deployed all that technology into their firms? What should they do? They are not that much aware. And what about individuals who are dealing with these firms? Their data is with either some sort of a bank, some sort of another firm, even companies. every company, almost all companies, they want all your data, but they don't know how to keep it safe. They don't have plans to actually keep it safe for the time that they want to keep that data with them. That is a very difficult situation for individuals across the globe. How do they do that? At least what is it that they can do to prevent any
Sure.
sort of an attack on their data?
Sure. So let me answer your first part first. The two biggest scams that we still see are, one, what we call BEC, or business email compromise scams. So,
Okay.
for example, I'm able to take over, let's say, a mailbox in a company that basically the person I take over has the ability to access finances or money for the company, and I'm able to move money out. Or I impersonate somebody that's an advisor to the company in some way, or one of the executives in the company, and tell an underling to move money out to do whatever I want. That is making an enormous amount of money. This impersonation of executives, this impersonation of advisors to organizations that say, "Hell yes, please take the money and move it, to wherever it is, because the deal is done." So that's one of the big ones. The other big one that we are seeing right now, and continuously, is ransomware. But we are up to what is known as quadruple ransomware right now. And what that means is there are 4 levels to the extortion. The first one is they lock the files out in your network, in your building, so you don't have access to it. The second level of extortion is they copy the files out before they do that, and then hold you for ransom, saying, "I'm going to show the world all of your secret documents unless you pay us X amount of money." The third level of extortion is they go through your documentation and see, "Oh, you're working with large corporations. Now we're going to go to them as well and ask for money because their sensitive data is in this data set." That actually happened to Apple. So one of their makers of the MacBook in Taiwan got compromised, and the attackers realized, "Oh, we have all of the schematics and designs for the MacBook." So they went to Apple and said, "If you don't want the world to know how to build a MacBook, you're going to send us a lot of money too." And then the fourth level of extortion is harassment, meaning they'll start knocking out your website. They'll make malicious phone calls. They'll send malicious emails. They'll threaten you, all this kind of stuff until you pay. And so that is essentially what we are seeing right now, is business email compromise scams and ransomware. Now, to answer your other question about this, one of the things that we talk about outside of risk, when we're actually implementing security, and they're like, "Nick, what kind of firewall do I need? What kind of antivirus?" The very first thing that we talk about is training the users, right? We have to be educated in this, because all the defensive technologies, the firewalls, the threat detection systems in the world are layered there to protect you. But if you are the one that has that email that gets through all of those layers, and you open that link, or you believe it's your CEO asking you to move money, now we have a problem. And so training people is one of the biggest problems that we've got right now. And a lot of corporations are simply relying on the infrastructure that an organization like mine will build or implement, for you. Meaning, we'll put in that firewall, we'll put in that endpoint detection response, we'll put in, the spam filter, whatever you need. But again, at the end of the day, if you're not training your people, it's one of the biggest mistakes that organizations make. And that's on the personal side as well. Even just in my personal life, I've been talking about on stage, as I talk to audiences worldwide, is we need to build a global herd immunity for cybersecurity. I've been saying that since before the pandemic. Fortunately, now everybody knows what herd immunity is, so I don't have to explain that term. But we are all interconnected, like we are with the virus, right? In our real life, like with COVID. So by virtue of that, if you and I are connected, we're emailing, we might be using Microsoft Teams together. And so if I'm compromised, because I don't know better, I'm sending you emails. You think it's me, you're opening things. So if we're all protected and we're all educated, our parents, our children, our coworkers, our spouses, then we are much better off. Much better off.
Okay, okay. So you dream of a world where we are all connected, and where cybersecurity sort of a thing is also part of the herd immunity in terms of our protection. But do you think it's a one world now? Because in a country like China, they use their own sort of systems and all that stuff, and like Weibo and also so many other things. Does it work? Will it work that way, or who are these hackers? Where even these guys will be also part of that system. Where do these hackers come from? Are they sitting in the US right next to you, or are they around India? How does it work? Will it work? What are the simple ways that an individual as of today can protect himself or herself? Should we start leaving our computers, or is it just a simple antivirus is enough for an individual user? Is there a better way we can secure ourselves apart from, even mails can be very confusing. There is a certain amount of sophistication by with the emails that hackers keep on sending to potential targets. How
Yeah.
does it work, Nick? Tell us something that we can do actually on the ground.
Right. Well, first things first. I mean, we're already interconnected. I am talking to you live in the United States, and you're in India. We are literally on opposite sides of the planet, and here we are. Like, you could be next door to me, right? So understand that we are all interconnected. Now, China's a unique story in the sense that I also wrote an article for Forbes back in 2018 about this, about what the internet will look like in 2028, as we see a bifurcation as China decides to basically isolate themselves, create their own more authoritarian surveillance level internet, and they are giving this to the countries that are in their Belt and Road Initiative. And I understand, China's a rival, not just of the United States, but also of India as well. So, we're very good allies, but China is a sore spot, I think, for both of our countries, in that vein. So that is one thing to consider. But at the moment, we're all interconnected in the sense that I have clients in China, and by virtue of that, I can talk to them just like I'm talking to you, and so we're all interconnected right now. And I think that's the important thing to understand. But if we are looking at, defending ourselves, we have a couple of different things that we have to understand. One, there are going to be scammers, there are going to be criminals that are going to try and get us infected, steal our money, whatever it is that they're going to do at the personal level, not just at the corporate level as well. But we also have to understand that we have another side of this, which is the privacy side of this, the Facebooks of the world, the social medias of the world. Everything that we do, they can see, they are reading, they are selling it to advertisers to basically make money. That's what it is. So if you and I are on Facebook, for example, talking in Messenger about, the great new Mercedes car, both of us are going to start getting advertisements for Mercedes cars, right? I mean, that's just how this works. And so understanding that we have to have a level of privacy in ourselves and understand what these companies are doing really comes down to education, really comes down to awareness. My second TED Talk was called The 5 Laws of Cybersecurity, and it was designed basically for the world to understand very basic non-technical language on how to approach any situation, right? That if there's a vulnerability, it will be exploited, that we trust when we shouldn't, that we have to create a filter of distrust in our technological lives. We need trust in society, right? We see what happens when two political parties don't trust each other and society breaks down, especially here in the United States. In the last few years, we've seen that. But we need to be able to trust, our spouses, our parents, our kids to some extent, because kids lie. But we have to create a filter of distrust around the technological environment. Meaning, is it you that's actually connecting to me on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever it is? I need to verify that. Is it really my long lost uncle I haven't seen, or my auntie I haven't seen in years? I need to verify that, right? Or is it somebody that just knows very easily how to break into my life? These are things that we have to do. And so we can buy antivirus, out there. There are great ones. We've evolved from traditional antivirus into what is known as EDR, or endpoint detection response systems, that leverages artificial intelligence. It's much better at catching things like viruses. But at the end of the day, it's us opening that link, clicking that email, believing that the person talking to us actually is somebody we know or somebody we want to do business with. And we see people fall for that all the time because they're not educated on these kinds of things. Like, so for example, I post nothing about my personal life. I have a public presence here in the United States. Like I said, I've got, as you mentioned, I have a nationally syndicated radio show here in the USA. I post nothing about my personal life. I could be married, I could be not, I could have 10 kids, I could have 0. You will never see me talk about that. You will never see me put that online. And that is because I'm avoiding phishing scams. I'm avoiding, potential people that will try and contact me. And I get contacted constantly. A lot of people call me an idiot. That's the beauty of the internet right now. A lot of people agree with me. You never know, right? You get everybody, but we have to understand these things, and we really have to make sure that we are taking care as we are going online and whatever we're doing.
Right, Nick. You are the president of the Foundation for a Human Internet.
Yes.
And when we talk about humans, then we also talk about their right to privacy, their right to live in a dignified manner. In that sense, as consumers, is there anything that we can demand from companies to keep our data better and much more safer? How does it work? What can we do as individual consumers or customers?
Right. So the number one thing that we honestly, the best thing that we can do living in democracies is vote, and vote for those people that have platforms on regulating these companies. So if you look at what the European Union is doing with their GDPR, for example, if you're an EU citizen, like if I'm a citizen of Germany, I'm a EU citizen, for example, I now have rights worldwide wherever my data is that you as an online platform have to adhere to. And so Facebook sitting in the United States has to comply with that, even though it's a US company. And so we are starting to see laws based on privacy really start to ramp up in governments around the world as well. I know there was also a recent case, I cannot remember the logistics of it, in India about that as well, about privacy as well under the Modi government, with Facebook and Twitter and all of that. The Foundation for a Human Internet is part of what is known as Human ID, and we are fighting against things like bot traffic, meaning when you're using like Twitter or Facebook, you have these automated accounts that are not real, but they're driving traffic or getting influence because the Twitter AI sees it and prioritizes it. And we see a lot of governments use that for intelligence operations to spread disinformation, misinformation. And so we believe that if you are online, the foundation believes that if you're online, one, you have the right to be anonymous, but you have basically to be a human. And so you can be anonymous, you do not have to give your name. And that's the whole technology behind Human ID, is that I can have an anonymous but verified human ID that I could use on a Twitter platform or another platform like that. And so they don't know my information, they don't have my info, but I can still use it freely. And so we're very big on things like free speech. That kind of stuff. So you can love me or hate me, and that's perfectly fine for you to say, right? And just please be civil. That would be nice, because I do think online platforms like Twitter is where civility goes to die. But that's essentially what we're working on right now.
Right. Freedom of speech is such an essential part of that, and we in India also it's a fundamental right for us, and
Right.
courts also try to and protect it as much as possible, even during tough times. So that's one.
Right.
So we all know what it means being from the largest democracy as well as the biggest democracies of the world. So it's
Right.
We can understand, and I hope the whole humankind has that sort of a advantage with them, that they can talk freely, share freely, express freely,
Right.
and live freely. Now,
Agreed.
talking about your company, security fanatics. Do tell us about that. What exactly it is all about? What do? You protect companies. You do so much of them. But what exactly you do? How do you do? And who is it for? Who can connect with you for their work?
Yeah. So we work worldwide. We work with any company around the globe. As I mentioned, I even have U.S. companies based in China that we work with. But we're more than happy to work with anybody in that sense. But typically, we do all things cybersecurity, cyber warfare, cyber terrorism, infrastructure, government compliance, and that's various governments across the world, because not just the U.S. But that's what we do. So if there are companies out there in India that need support and help, or just advice on cybersecurity, we're more than happy to help with that as well. But yeah, we've worked with some really interesting outfits in the past. right now, one of our most interesting things, it's on hold right now, but we're hoping to be working with the United Nations ITU soon on developing cyber defense strategies for developing countries, those that don't have many cybersecurity professionals in the world, in the government, but obviously need to basically secure themselves. The governments are running societies. If the governments get hacked and services are shut down, it's a very serious problem for that population. And so, so we run the gamut. We work with Fortune 100 all the way down. Anybody that's got a need for cybersecurity, we're more than happy to help.
And how do they connect? What is the best way to know more about you, to connect with you?
Sure. So you can follow me on like Facebook and Twitter at Nick AESP. That's Nick AESP. You can connect to me on LinkedIn at /Nick Espinosa. The name you see right here, no spaces. Same with YouTube as well. Feel free to watch my videos. I've interviewed some really interesting people, for my radio show and all of that. And you can catch all of my old radio shows on my SoundCloud account as well at Nick Espinosa. So please feel free to follow me, connect, come say hi.
Right. My last question to you, Nick, is that as an individual, what is it that, should I become a hermit? Should I stop, using anything that is being presented to me? How do I make a good choice as an individual? Second thing is, in India, there are a lot of cybersecurity firms, and there are a lot across the world. Smaller firms are also aware about cybersecurity. They hire cybersecurity firms, and everybody, when they pitch, they come out as experts. So two things: as an individual, how can I still not be a hermit and still avoid using things that I should or I can? Second thing is, how do firms who are hiring cybersecurity firms hire the right ones? What questions they should ask? How do they land up with a right firm and not with fresh problems of their own?
Right. So it's interesting here, and I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent for 20 seconds here, but I have a joke. I get that question a lot, especially when I'm traveling around, but specifically in the United States, when I'm traveling, I get the question of, should I just give up all technology? And my response is, there's no going Amish on my watch. The Amish here in the United States live like it is like 1692. There's no electricity, horse and buggy, they're very religious, and my answer is no, we are not going Amish. We're not going to be hermits, with this. We can love technology. We can embrace technology. I have every stupid gadget you can possibly think of, but for me, it's more to try to break into it. But all we have to do is marry our technology with cybersecurity and awareness, meaning we understand the potential risks of using the technology, and we balance that risk with how we use it. And so yes, I bank online. I have the banking app on my phone for my bank that I use here in the United States, and I will continue to do that. But my phone is encrypted. It's protected. I have a lot of things around it. I have multi-factor authentication enabled for those kinds of things. And so even if you were to steal my phone, you wouldn't be able to access the actual app for the bank, let alone know the password. So understand that we can use all the technology we want. We just have to be aware of the vulnerability that it can bring into our lives and act accordingly. And that's it. So love technology, embrace technology, all of that. Now, to your second question of, what's the best firm for my business? I will tell you what I tell all of my audiences when they ask me, how do I pick the right IT company? How do I pick the right cybersecurity firm? The answer, honestly, all of them are going to say a lot of the same things. We'll protect you. We'll keep you secure. We will respond to any emergency within 5 minutes, those kinds of things. But the proof really of what shows their maturity, their training level, their depth of how they are training their people, honestly, is in their products. Meaning if they are using low to mid-range, more basic products, well, they know probably to the penny how much they're going to make on that. You know what I mean? Like they'll know to the rupee how much they're going to make, and they don't have to train people because their current staff can train the new incoming people, so they don't have to spend any money whatsoever to train. And that is one of those things. So if you have an organization that is using enterprise level technology, meaning I can walk into a Fortune 100 company and see that exact same firewall or other products, then I know that my, let's say, small to medium sized business, those products are affordable, but two, if they're being sold to me, I'm now defended very similarly to how a Fortune 100 company is defended. Those are the companies that are investing time, training, energy into things like, into training, into better improvement on products. Here in Security Fanatics, we vet our products every 90 days. Every 90 days, we look at everything from firewalls to threat detection systems to password managers, you name it. We are vetting everything. We are not like married or attached to anything. The firewall I use now might not be the firewall I use in a year if something better comes along. And that's the way it needs to be, as opposed to a firm that says, oh, I've used the same, as an example, firewall for the last 5 years. Well, maybe 3 years ago, you should have switched. And those are things that we have to maintain vigilance on. There is no such thing as complacency in cybersecurity. And when you see complacency in cybersecurity, that's when you fail. And so I think that's a huge lesson for everybody as well.
Right. And with so much of technology coming in, we are taking all these small devices to even our bedrooms, like our phones. It listens everything.
Right.
And when it listens, it's almost getting recorded somewhere in this whole universe, cyber universe. Second thing is we have devices like Alexa and all that stuff. Wherever we are going, even within within our own house, we have got these devices everywhere. How to live amidst these devices? Or is it that we don't use these devices? How do we live a life with technology but without threats? That's my last question.
Right. So for the record, I don't use smart devices outside of a mobile phone. I do not have Amazon Alexas or Echoes or anything like that in my house, specifically because I know that anything with a microphone and a camera could potentially listen. I'm not saying some criminal is hacked in to turn on my camera. I'm saying Amazon literally can listen, and what these things can record is pretty impressive. So understand that if you're going to use these things, you have to balance that. As long as you're aware that this could record anything and it's sitting, for example, in your kitchen, right? And so you're talking with your family as you're preparing meals, it could potentially record that conversation. It's the same if you have a Amazon Echo in your bedroom. It can record whatever goes on in your bedroom, right? So these are things that we have to be aware of, and so making sure that you are taking the proper precautions. So for example, let's say you're going to have a very deeply personal conversation with your spouse about anything, whatever it is. You can always unplug it, and plug it right back in. Take the time to learn that. Some of my clients that refuse to get rid of this stuff will put them on switches, meaning remote switches. They can press a button and it cuts the power, and they can press another button and turns the power back on and fires the unit back up. And so you can do these kinds of things. But me personally, I understand just the vulnerabilities that this also brings sitting on the same network as my computer or my tablet or my laptop or whatever it is, that if I can compromise one of these IoT devices, I can potentially, use that to leverage to get into a computer, and when we're hacking into companies that pay us to do that, oftentimes we're breaking into the IoT. We literally compromised a network through a light switch. They had a smart light switch, and we were able to compromise it and actually exfiltrate data, remove data from their network through their light switch. Right. You don't think about these things, but these are possible. So be aware. Again, we're not turning into hermits, but make sure that you are taking good precautions with the things that you are using.
Right. Absolutely. What I understand, Nick, is that we got to be smarter than the smartphones and all the smart devices. That's the only way to live, perhaps, in today's
world. Exactly. Very good way to put it.
With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much, Nick, for joining on this show.
Thanks for having me.